7 out of 10 criteria to become World Heritage Site.
The river behind these fence pines. You'll then follow the valley around the back of this rock.
Thanks.
Righto, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that one. That was the Overland Track in Tasmania. Probably one of the most infamous multi-day hikes in Australia. It's been on my to-do list for a very, very long time now, so super stoked to have it under my belt. Overall, this is an absolute pearler of a hike, and if I had to throw a rating on it, I'd probably give it 8 out of 10. I do think there is some better multi-days in Tasmania though, but I mean, bang for your buck, this is pretty hard to beat. It's relatively easy, especially if you snag good weather like I did. If you don't do any side trips, you'll be absolutely laughing. 6 days is a very, very cruisy amount of time to do it. I did it in 5 with 3 side trips, so you can definitely do it faster than 6 if you want to. I decided to mix it up a little bit with this one as well and go with the no music route, aside from the intro. I played it with music and without music, and I just thought the general aesthetics of it worked a little bit better for this video in particular without any music whatsoever. So I don't know if I'll go down that route again or continue going down that route. So if you got any feedback for that, yeah, would love to hear it. The next hike at this stage probably won't be until Feb, but I do have an idea of a video I want to make between now and then. Although I did say that last time, so I can't make any promises. Might be like a little bit of a life update sort of situation, what's going on and what's taking me a bit longer to get these hikes out. So yeah, we'll see whether or not I do end up making that one. But until then, or the next hike, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
The things you do for a shot. Hope that was worth it. Oh. Probably filming. Hello.